Thank you very much. Look, folks, I wanted to be here today for a simple reason. I want the people of Israel, the people of the world, to know where the United States stands. I've had my great Secretary of State here. He's been here for a lot, but I wanted to personally come and make that clear. Terrorist group Hamas has slaughtered, as has been pointed out, over 1,300 people. And it's not hyperbole to suggest slaughtered, and including 31 Americans as part of that. And they've taken scores of people hostage, including children. You said, imagine what those children hiding from Hamas were thinking. It's beyond my comprehension to be able to imagine what they're thinking. Beyond my comprehension. They're committed evils that and atrocities that make ISIS look somewhat more rational. You know, Americans are grieving with you. They really are. And Americans are worried. Americans are worried because we know this is not an easy field to navigate, what you have to do. But the fact is that Israel, as they respond to these attacks, it seems to me that have to continue to ensure that you have what you need to defend yourselves. And we're going to make sure that occurs, as you know. And we have to also bear in mind that Hamas does not represent all the Palestinian people. And it has brought them only suffering. You know, years ago, I asked the Secretary of State when he and I were working in the Senate to write something for me, and he said, he wrote a line that I think is appropriate. He said, it's not, we lead, not just, well, I won't go into it, I'll wait later, taking too much time, but the point is this, that I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. But there's a lot of people out there not sure. So we've got to overcome a lot of things. And it also means encouraging life-saving capacity to help the Palestinians who are innocent, caught in the middle of this. And well, at any rate, that's who we are. Not just me, but I mean, that's who the United States is. And it's just not the example of our power, it's the power of our example. It's almost as important. The world's looking. Israel has a value set like the United States does and other democracies. And they're looking to see what we're going to do. So, Mr. Prime Minister, I'm very happy to be back in Israel with you. Thank you for having me, and I'm looking forward to having a thorough discussion about where everybody goes from here. But thank you, and I want to say to the people of Israel, their courage, their commitment, their bravery is stunning. It's really stunning. I'm proud to be here.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're obviously seeing members of the press corps trying to get a few questions in. Doesn't look like President Biden or the Prime Minister taking questions right now. This is mainly an exchange of pleasantries, but also an acknowledgement of the shared horror over what happened here less than 2 weeks ago with those terror attacks. Notably, President Biden speaking to that explosion at a Gaza hospital that Hamas has blamed Israel for. President Biden saying it appears it was done by the other team, referencing perhaps Hamas or other militant Palestinian groups, but again, seeming to accept the Israeli version of events, that they were not behind any attack on that hospital. We want to go to Peter Alexander right now, who's standing by at the White House. Peter, the president's going to be trying to get a lot done here on the ground in a very short amount of time.
Lester, that's right. He is likely to be there only a matter of hours before returning to the United States. Intended trip to Jordan, where he was going to meet with Palestinian leaders. Mahmoud Abbas, the president, the Jordanian king Abdullah, and the Egyptian president, has been called off following that awful blast that took place at the hospital in Gaza. The president, we were told by White House officials, will instead speak to El-Sisi of Egypt and to Mahmoud Abbas when he flies back aboard Air Force One later. But I think the key takeaway from what you saw moments ago was that it's not just the president standing with Israel, but standing in Israel, as Bibi Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, said here. And this moment that played out about half an hour ago is really the moment, the image, I think, that will reverberate around the world today. That embrace between the prime minister and the president. For Netanyahu, that alone makes the president's trip worth it, to demonstrate the support of the United States at this time. We are told by multiple administration officials that the idea of this visit was first floated not long after the awful attack, where more than 1,400 Israelis, individuals, were killed on October 7th. The president, visiting with members of his team on Monday, ultimately said that he felt strongly it was important to continue to stand in solidarity with Israel and the Israeli people in, as it was described to us, their hour of need. We will hear from the president with more formal remarks a little bit later today, Lester. As we understand, the president will, after this visit with Netanyahu, also be meeting with Netanyahu's war cabinet to get a better understanding of the strategy there. Among the key points that he has already made public, not just on the ground here in the U.S., but now on the ground in Israel, is the need for Israel to use restraint and some caution to try to limit civilian casualties as best possible now. Let's be very clear. What we have witnessed in the course of the last 24 hours has really changed this crisis, has made it even more volatile than it already was, with many Arabs in that part of the world protesting in the streets after that blast that took place at the hospital. The president, after those remarks later today, will return to the United States, but not before he meets with some of the members of those who lost loved ones. And the White House expects him to meet also with first responders and also those whose loved ones are still missing. Lester, just the last takeaway here, we heard from the president reiterating what the White House had said for the first time to us overnight. The death toll of Americans has now risen. It started as just a handful in the immediate hours after the attack. We have now learned, as the president just said, 31 Americans are among those dead, 13 still unaccounted for. Lester.
Peter, Alexandra, thanks. And I spoke to some families of the missing American families who were hopeful they would get a chance to speak to the president today. That still remains to be seen. That concludes this NBC News special report. We'll have much more ahead. Streaming on NBC News Now, online at NBCnews.com. And, of course, this morning on Today's Show, I'll see you back here for NBC Nightly News. And, of course, we'll come on the air whenever events warrant. For now, I'm Lester Holt in Tel Aviv. Good day, everyone.